A hat-trick for the Turkish lira. It's rallied for the third consecutive day off the back of government measures to boost the currency. On Thursday, Finance Minister Berat Albayrak held a conference call with international investors. He says limiting government debt and cutting down inflation are key priorities. He ruled out capital controls and stressed the independence of the central bank, echoing comments made to Turkish business leaders earlier in Istanbul.
Enforcing the independence of monetary policy, this point is very important. If you have noticed since the first day in office, I have made an effort to speak using very sensitive language and as little as possible about monetary policies and the central bank. Because when you look at the whole framework, the central bank's independence is critically fundamental regarding Turkey, our economy.
He also stressed that the slide in Turkey's currency has more to do with politics than economics. Tensions between Ankara and Washington have been rising, and analysts say that's a major concern for investors.
The Turkish government also sees this recent economic tension, or rather the recent legal and political tension with economic consequences, as a part of broader American assault within the region that includes Iran, Russia.
Ankara's responded by stepping up efforts to boost ties with other trade partners and allies. On Thursday, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan discussed economic cooperation with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. And Qatar's Emir Tamim Al Thani was in Ankara a day earlier, pledging to invest $15 billion in Turkey. The Foreign Office is also making progress in talks on trade and visa arrangements with the EU and Russia.
I believe that our relations with the European Union are normalising on a firmer basis. We have agreed with Russia in principle on visa-free travel for businessmen, lorry and truck drivers, as well as grey and green passport holders.
Germany, China, Russia and other countries have criticized US trade policy under President Trump. Now the Turkish government is calling on their leaders to coordinate and take the fight to the White House. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Let's get more on this now with our senior business producer, Mobin Nasir. So, Mobin, tell us a little bit more about what Berat Albayrak said in that conference call with investors.
You know, there were 7,000 representatives listening in on it, and he made sure to tick all the boxes. Talking about the financial institutions, he said stress tests are being carried out on banks. He said there are no open forex positions in the system at the moment. He mentioned that all corporates are well placed to take care of all the short-term liabilities, and he said that there have been no major outflows of deposits over the past few days. Moving to the fiscal side of things, he said that all ministries have been given specific targets for savings, and that the government is planning more fiscal controls to help bring down inflation. And he said that the primary surplus will be about $6 billion by the end of the year. And then, of course, talking about the external side, he ruled out any need to go to the IMF. He said there will be no capital controls. He's been very categorical talking about that so far. And he also said that there are more sources of funds that will be made public in coming weeks.
Right. When you say open forex positions, you mean basically avenues for foreign investors to sell the lira, essentially. Mobin, you've been out and about in the streets over the last couple of days talking to people, to ordinary Turks. What is their impression about what's going on?
Well, what we've seen, especially in the local market today, if you must have noticed that the spread at exchanges where people generally would go, and especially for small amounts, $200, $300, there the spread has narrowed somewhat. And of course, generally, specifically after the announcement of $15 billion inflow from Qatar and other such measures, there is, it seems, more confidence now domestically, and that's also being reflected in the price of the currency. In fact, if you notice, most of the slippages now are coming after hours, after Turkish banking hours end. So, on the whole, right. Yes, a lot more confidence about the currency.
Right. Maybe the Turkey story has also been a factor in recent days of some selling in other markets, including in the US. With the rebound in the lira that we've seen over the last few days, has that contagion effect kind of ended, at least for now?
In fact, just yesterday we were seeing that as financials in the US market were taking a hit, that was being attributed to the weakness of the lira. But I think that there are a lot more issues about the emerging markets overall that might be plaguing investors. We've seen not very impressive results coming out of the new economy in China from the likes of Tencent. And of course, metals also, specifically copper being a leading indicator of industrial output or demand for it. So the weakness in that price certainly not a good sign for the global economy.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we're going to be taking a close look at metal prices in a moment. But for now, Mobin Nasir, thank you.